morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wealth Equation podcast. Today, we have actually a great honour, and I mean that, it's not a trite comment. I mean, a great honour to introduce a gentleman called James Greenwell to the show. James, thanks so much for joining in today. We really appreciate it. That's
my
great.
pleasure. My pleasure. Lovely to chat with you.
You are very, very welcome, sir. And for everybody watching, listen, let me just explain a little bit what James's story is, and then we're going to hand over to James to learn more. So for me, when I was researching James and his story, I found myself writing these words. So this is a gentleman that's crossing boundaries between sporting excellence and business excellence. So there's an insight into James's background. So let's throw some more in there. British champion, European champion, world champion in biathle, triathle, and also modern pentathlon. I'm keen to find out more about all of that. So James has translated his talents over into the business world by forming the On Group in 2003, 21 years ago, I might add now, James. Welcome to the world of getting slightly older. So here we are. James, I mean, I don't want to say anymore because I've got far less to say about this than you have. Tell us all about your story. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I'm an athlete entrepreneur. I am the athlete entrepreneur, as I like to say. I am. So my titles are running now. I think it's 23 times British champion,
Wow.
8 times European, and 4 times world champion in multi-sport. So my association is the Modern Pentathlon Association, Great Britain. That's when I started in 1987. I am really showing my age now. I was 14 at the time, so I'm coming on 53 next birthday. It was 5 sports over 5 days. Modern Pentathlon is based upon the King's first night. And the story goes that the king calls his first knight to the castle and says, I need a message delivered to the battlefront. The first knight jumps on his horse, rides off to deliver this message. He's attacked by highwaymen, so he draws his sword and fights his way out of trouble and continues. But the horse is lame. So he jumps off the horse and starts running. He comes to a lake, and once again, he dives in and swims the lake. Attacked once more, pulls his pistol out, fires his shot, and then finally completes his mission. Okay. So in ancient times, King's first knight. I like to think in modern times we're James Bond.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. There is a photograph of you. I think it might be on LinkedIn. I can't remember, of you coming out of a lake or an ocean somewhere, in like half running, and I'm like, oh, that's a little bit Daniel Craig. That is, James. That's a bit.
That I believe that was Egypt 2018 when I won my first world title.
Awesome stuff. Isn't it about time you retired and gave somebody else a chance, for goodness sake?
Absolutely not. I like winning, Ellis. It's something I really enjoy. I'm coming on 53 next year. I've had a wealth of experience over the years from the age of 14, first international championships at the age of 19 in Poland in 1990. But I've had a wealth of working with some of the top coaches in the world in multisport, in modern pentathlon.
Yeah.
And because of that knowledge and because of that learning and taking it in and putting it into a multi-sport concept, first of all, you stay hungry because it's diverse. It's not one sport which can over time become fatiguing, battle fatigue we spoke earlier about. But the diversity of it is fascinating. The friendship I've made around the world with my co-athletes, and don't get me wrong, I win a lot, but I don't always win. And it's that challenge to get back on top of the podium that keeps me driving. But taking the knowledge of many, many years as working as an elite athlete, junior squad, then British senior team, senior Europeans team, world's team, and then shortlisted for the Olympic Games. Because of that knowledge and the growth of an athlete, I take that training knowledge, which I've learned from my coaches, into what I do now. Absolutely. And even though I'm, let's say, 52 going on, I still train on the run, swim, and shoot as hard as I did when I was an elite athlete. So on a regular weekly basis, I will run up to and sometimes over 50 kilometers over a number of sessions. I will swim 10,000 meters a week over 3-4 sessions. I'll shoot a number of times, and I'll do strength and conditioning. So it's about 12 hours a week when I'm building up well, through the winter, into the summer season, race season, I'll be at 12 hours a week training.
12 hours doesn't, to a layman, doesn't seem enough for that amount of distance and effort, to be quite honest with you. I was just doing some mental maths and thinking, yeah, you're getting close to my regime there, but you got a little more to go, you know. But my goodness. So how do you find time to live amongst all of this stuff? And do you run your businesses? And this is fascinating stuff for people.
Yeah, the key is surrounding yourself with the right team.
Yeah, okay.
I always remember the conversation I had with a gentleman, Lord Ian McLaurin, who you probably know. He took Tesco's, I think, from 500 million to billions.
Oh, of course. I was thinking, but now I've got you. Yeah.
And when I was chatting to him, this was a number of years ago, I said to him, "What's your secret?" And he said, "James, it's very, very simple. You have to get three things around you that are correct. And if you get that, your business grows. You get it wrong, and everybody gets it wrong from time to time.
Yeah.
Your business will either stagnate, shrivel up, what have you." I said, "Great. Can you share your insight with me?" He said, "Very, very, very simple, James. The first thing you need to do is get the right people.
Yep.
The second thing you need to do is get the right people." And I said, "I know where this is going." He said, "Yeah. Third thing you need to do is get the right people. If you get the right people around you as your team, then everything is good." And I've got a really good, talented team, and our numbers go up and down. You know, we're not a huge company; we're a small to medium size, but I have a real talented team around me, and they understand the vision of where we're going, and what we have to do. And if I use the word we, if we manage the team correctly, it allows me time to train, even though I do get up very early, 3 days a week. It allows me time to be a daddy, and I'm a new daddy. I've got a 17-month-old with my fiance Charlotte, and we're expecting a bump to join us in late April. So it is all about work, life, health, competing, business balance, and that's something I think I do reasonably well.
Sounds like you're mastering the art of understanding that the business has to work for you, not the other way around. You know, there are many people out there in small business land, and lots of them watch this show, thankfully. Thank you guys for joining in. That aren't clear on that. You know, their business, they are a slave to their business. They own several jobs in their business. It's the wrong way around. So we're here to help people learn. Now, the Wealth Equation podcast, you built a brilliant bridge there, James. Thank you. Is all about understanding people's perspectives around the try, okay, the try aspects of the wealth equation, which is finance, time, and health. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What's your perspective on let's start with money. Wealth, financial wealth. Do you run your businesses to drive financial wealth for you and the family, or is it something else? What are your thoughts? Interesting as well as an athlete. I'm assuming that financial wealth, as it were, as an athlete, it must have been hard going at times. I would have thought, relatively.
Oh, sure. I mean, prior to On Group, I funded myself for 9 years as an elite athlete because it was pre-lottery. So, nowadays the boys and girls are competing for Team GB, whether they make Olympics or not, are lottery sponsored. And to just give everybody at home an insight as to what that actually physically means.
Yeah.
If you're ranked in the sort of top 50 in the world in your sport, and you're say at Bath University, where home of Modern Pentathlon is, and bobsleigh and numerous other triathlon swimming, if you're a national team member and you're top 50 in the world, you're likely to see sponsorship or backing from Lottery Foundation of somewhere between 15 and 25,000 per year, tax free. So it's enough to get by. I mean, the boys and girls, they house share. They get for it. If you move on to being a top 10 athlete in the world, the money goes up considerably. I'm not going to tell everyone exactly what you'd get if you were an Olympic gold medalist, but before sponsorship, you do all right. And remember, it's tax free. That's
yes, of course.
One of the key things. My
Brilliant.
time, I was personal training and teaching fitness classes, everything from aerobics to step aerobics to boxercise to you name it, I taught it. And I was having to find that balance between teaching classes, physically doing the classes, personal training one-to-ones, which I work with a number of other athletes and celebrities, which was very fortunate for me, and actually physically doing the training that you have to do to keep yourself in the game to win. And back in those days, the money wasn't there. So we trained to compete for our queen and country, not for the money.
Says a lot about, you mentioned resilience earlier on. Says a lot about resilience, doesn't it? Says a lot about hunger, drive. Again, I love this between sporting excellence and business excellence, because the people that I am privileged to work with that are winning in business, these guys are driven. They're
Mm.
hungry. I'm intrigued as well because it also, I don't see often that their hunger and their drive and their resilience is driven by a need for money. It's more about a need for excellence and achievement. Money therefore comes as it's almost the outcome of what they're driving for, you know?
Yeah, I set out to help people. When I first started the On Group, and even prior to that, I was associated with an American company that made a green food. And you've heard it before. I was so impressed with the green food. I bought the company, but it didn't quite go like that. But actually, I was so impressed with the green food that I was using
Right.
that I joined their company, a multi-level company, when I was still a personal trainer, and
I
then
see.
very quickly realized that actually multi-level marketing or direct sales or whatever they want to call it nowadays was not for me. But the product was fantastic, and to this day, the US company that I believe makes the best green food in the world, supply me with the green food that we have in our protocol range and the U Perform range. So it's very much a case of I set out to help people get healthy. I really like helping people. If people come to me and they've got joint issues or pain issues, it means a lot to me when I can work with them over a period of time and actually fix the problem. Um, I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot about nutrition. Obviously, 21 years plus studying it and performance nutrition.
Sure.
So that's the motivator.
And doing it. That's the
Mm.
key. It's
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. Yeah. So
oh,
that's a big motivator. But don't get me wrong, I am, I say, we hear this term money motivated. I think this applies a lot to youngsters, and it definitely did to me because I was probably surviving off about £8,000 or £10,000 a year personal training, and had lived in a very very small house. We couldn't swing a cat in it, and even then I had a housemate to make ends meet.
yeah.
I was very happy doing what I was doing, very fulfilled doing what I was doing, but the light bulb of where I went occurred in the sporting injury. But I don't know if many people know my backstory. I was on the track at Bath University as men's team captain in 2003, February 2003. And I was in a running training session. And Coach Christian was saying, "Come on, your boys are being lazy. So, my captain, come on, push." So I pushed, and I pushed a bit too hard. It was very cold, and I ruptured my right Achilles tendon.
Oh dear.
Um, it was at that point in time I became the first elite athlete in the world to utilize collagen as an edible product, as in something you literally eat,
Mm.
as part of a nutritional program to see if it will help my body recover. I mean, the fun and games behind that, Ellis, is absolutely brilliant. I turned to a former teammate of mine who's very, very well known in the world, especially in Great Britain, Professor Greg White, OBE.
Okay.
People go, I know that name. Where do I know that name from? He's the physiologist who works with all the celebrities on sports relief and comic relief
Okay.
challenges. So David Walliams swimming the channel, it was Greg next,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Thames next swim, so on and so forth, Kilimanjaro challenges. And
Wow.
I phoned Greg up and I said, Whitey, rip a tendon. What do I do? And he said, well, if you were David Beckham, they would go and stitch you, but you're not, and you haven't got the money. And the conversation went round about age and body's natural glue broken down. And a long story short, he said, we need to get you on this collagen thing I've been reading about from a company in Germany. Contacted the company, and literally about 24 hours later, the company, well, they agreed to work me then and there, luckily. 24 hours later, I got a bag of white powder delivered. my immediate phone call back to Greg was, what do I do with this? And he said,
Yeah,
well,
that's right.
don't snort
I know
it.
yes, this, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's where the protocol journey first instigated. And it was a back bedroom setup. It was me and the cat. Literally, that's where the company On Group first started. But my
Wow.
goal from a monetary point of view, to come back to your question specifically, for years I've been a personal trainer, and if you work hard, you get money. If you miss a client because you're competing or training or sick, you get
Yeah,
no money. So my
absolutely.
goal was to set up something that, with a business taking it online, taking it into sales, whether I was supplying business to business, direct to consumer, wherever it was going to be, I wanted to wake up next morning more wealthy financially than I did going to bed the night before.
So we call that leverage, don't we? We call that leverage. If you can go to bed, sorry, if you can wake up the next day richer than you were when you went to bed, you're starting to leverage. That's a very interesting perspective there. Very good. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Interesting.
So that's where I am. You know, I like money. I like the things money buys. So it's really important. You know, um, Charlotte, my fiance, when I realized when we realized she was properly pregnant and we was going to have a little troublemaker in our life. You know, one of the things that I looked at is she was driving a 19-year-old Mini Cooper,
Right.
you know, which wouldn't stand up in a car crash, really and truly. So, you know, the first thing I want to do was put a tank around them, and you know, to put a decent SUV, what have you. She drives an Audi Q5 now. Around her takes money. So I am money motivated because I wanted to be able to put her in something nicer, something secure, something safe for my family. Um, you know, I enjoy my time out, time life balance, whether I'm abroad training with my friends, teammates, or if I'm away with my family. That's important. And you know, I'm very fortunate over the years. I've worked really hard, and I have a villa in Mallorca, so it's my escape.
That sounds like winter training territory to me, probably. I would have thought.
Great where we are. There's
Yeah.
four 25-meter pools within about 10 miles, an Olympic running track, and multiple gyms. It is fantastic. It gives me an advantage.
So again, it's a brilliant example for the people watching, listening, that money is on its own, piles of it or in a bank account, is not necessarily the motivator. It's the
No,
things that it allows you to do, isn't it? That to
absolutely.
experience, to own, to give, whatever it happens to be that you want to do. You
Hmm.
have to have the money to allow you to. The wealth financially is all about giving you the ability to do what you want to do. So, okay, last question on money. How do you run your businesses, or do you run your major business directly correlating its performance to a plan? Are you thinking, okay, our plan was to invoice X in November 24, we achieved Y, therefore there's a gap up or down, da da da. Is that how you run your business?
Um, very similar concept. Yes. I mean,
Okay.
coming back to people, I am very fortunate to have a co-director, Mr. Ian Moyse, who I poached from. He used to be the financial director of a company that basically did water utilities for the country. So his company would the company he was working for would service the likes of Wessex Water and Thames Water and so on and so forth. Um, he is chalk and cheese with me. People personality profiling. I'm an extreme red. He's an extreme blue. So
Okay.
he's an absolute no risk taker.
Yeah, yeah.
He's an attention to detail. He's an
It,
absolute completer. Um, so we balance exceptionally well. He's in charge of cash flows. You know, don't get me wrong. I know how to run a cash flow, and it's my when I teach on business, for especially setups and small businesses,
sure.
one of my top three tips is make sure you run a proper cash flow and
Absolutely.
forecast. I am amazed even today. I speak to many entrepreneurs who are setting up a business, and some of them in business years, and they don't actually run a proper cash flow.
Yeah.
Control the stress. A cash flow tells you where you're going to be, whether it's good or bad. You know
That's right.
exactly where you're going to be.
Deal with it.
Absolutely. Ian runs the cash flows. He's in charge of stock turnover, a commercial side of things. So the joke is I make the mess, he clears it up.
Yeah.
But from that point of view, we have very clear budgets. So for example, this year we've run into a few issues. The nature of the business I'm in, or the industry we're in here, is we have multiple partners. One of our lead partners is shopping television around the world.
Okay.
So people are very familiar, I'm sure, with the likes of QVC here in the UK, Ideal World, TJC. Well, we do that, and then we do that on steroids. So with Protocol is on QVC, Perform is on QVC. New Me, one of my other brands, is on Ideal World here in the UK. But we are live on QVC Italy. We're talking to Germany to launch in the new year. One of the biggest partners was a company called Group Stars in France, and they actually were our main customer and still are a main customer for years. Unfortunately, beginning of last year, through mismanagement, they went into receivership, and they had outstanding invoices. Well, this type of thing is no shock or horror to many businessmen.
Yeah. It's real life. It happens
from time to time.
Yeah.
But when you have the biggest shopping channel in France, Group Stars, M6 Boutique, GM24 Italy, Ideal World times 2 over a 12-month period, go into receivership, and your cash flow gets hit to the tune of £700,000, it's going to hurt.
Oh, absolutely.
You need the right people around and the right strategy and forward planning to guide you out of that gently. Absolutely. Because unless you're a great big PLC, £700,000 is a lot of money to anybody.
Without a shadow.
So what Ian does and what we've done is created a very strict budget.
Yes. So
we look at ratios. So if your turnover is X, what is your staff cost in ratio to that? Absolutely. What is your advertising cost? How much money can you spend to stay safe? Yeah. And then the question comes down to the intricacies. Where do you spend the money to regrow again? So we've come through a year of this in 2023. We've seen lovely growth for 10 years, and then we've been hit by bad debts. But we are growing because of the strategic plan.
And so this is we're still in the subject of wealth equation here in financial terms. So as business leaders, business owners, James, we don't get to have financial wealth if we're not applying the disciplines, the intelligence that your partner and yourself are operating with there. What a wonderful lesson for everybody watching and listening. If you don't have a budget, if you don't have a cash flow forecast, you are literally running around the room with the lights off, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not going to work. How do you bring how do you find your way through a dark room? Well, the answer is you don't turn the lights off even more, do you? You turn them.
Exactly. So coming back to the sporting analogies, two massive quotes that I live and breathe by. Sergei Bubka, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right, absolutely.
So, you have to have a plan. It doesn't have to be absolutely documented.
No.
We're not talking about putting an encyclopedia together of a business plan, but you need to have a structure and a plan and understanding and a shared vision. And the lovely one, they're called the 7 Ps. Now, I grew up on this because in Modern Pentathlon, when I came through the ranks as a junior, I was surrounded by the guys from Arborfield Garrison and the Navy, so the military. And I'm sure you've heard the 7 Ps many, many times. I'm sure many people have prior planning preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Absolutely. Very,
if you utilize that
angle, but yeah, for sure. Again, these are great lessons. This is the reason that we do this show. So thank you, James. Can we move on, please, to time? What are your thoughts around being wealthy of time? How important is that to you as a serial achiever? And how do you go about making it happen? You've touched on it a little bit, but just expand a touch for me, if you don't.
It's everything to me. Because who wants to be the richest man in the graveyard?
Right.
It's pointless exercise. 3 years ago, I met my fiance. Charlotte, and being a bit of a James Bond over the years, I've had a few girlfriends from time to time, shall we just say. But Charlotte is the one. And ironically, she's a lot younger than me. She's 37. I'm 52. But ironically, she came through the same school as me. But just lots of years later. And she is the right person for me because of the balance. She is my yin to my yang. She's very understanding. Yes, she has the balance to deal with me. And I love spending time with her because we share things. We're both foodies. We both love wine. We both love travel. We both love socializing. We both love entertaining. We're both family orientated. So it's a real pleasure to spend time with her. And then, of course, 17 months ago, little Sophia joined the equation, who is my pocket rocket princess, who was running at 11 months, loves water. So she's taking after daddy already, and has got a personality that is enormous. And, I just love time. My favorite times of the day is daddy dinner time. So I make a point now of leaving the office. If I have to do a few emails later on in the evening when she's gone to bed, so be it. But I try and time manage to the point where, in the early days of growing the business, Ellis, when it was back bedroom for 3 years, then garage. Well, it was back bedroom for 6 months, converted garage for 3 years, and then started scaling up, and I rented offices, and the staff level went up with this.
Cool.
But over the years, I've worked some really proper hard hours.
This is the point, right? This is the point. The last podcast we did with Julie, this is exactly the same thing she was saying. Is if you're not prepared to do the time, don't do the crime. That was her phrase. I thought that was really great.
Very much so.
In order to have the world under control that you're describing with Sophia and Charlotte and the next addition to the family coming along and so on, you've had to put the laps in, man. You don't get to be world champion if you're not put the laps in either. So why is it that people are working 60 to 80 or even 100 hours a week killing themselves in this context? It doesn't have to be that way.
No, you're right. Work clever, not hard.
Right.
But entrepreneurs are people who are prepared to take a risk and do what they have to do now to enjoy the future tomorrow. So, in sport, and even now, when I'm running with my training partner, Kip Harrison, who's a director of his own financial company. I always say to him when he's hurting and we're both hurting, we're on, maybe we've been on the track and we're down on the floor and it's puke ski. I say, remember, what we do today, Kip, will pay off in 18 months' time.
Yeah.
So it's not next week when you race and you actually go a second or two quicker. It's in 18 months' time when you've actually dropped a minute that matters. And for me, I've done the work. I mean, I think my record week, Ellis, was 104 hours in a week and over 300 hours in the month. In the early days when I was, in my early 30s and just understanding where I was going, what I was doing. Because, I sit here 21 years in as a CEO and people look at me and go, you make this look really easy. You're the swan. But don't get me wrong. I've done the graft, I've done the work, and
You've earned the right.
I've made lots of mistakes.
I know, 100%, completely. I'm loving what you're saying. Let me try and build another bridge to people that are running a cafe, running a garage. They're architects in their 3-person practice. They're etc. How relevant is it to you, the fact that you're not a technician? You see, my point is, you're not a plumber that suddenly found himself employing 20 plumbers and he's 35K in his overdraft and he's struggling. You're not that guy. You're not a technician. You're a different animal, aren't you? You're coming at business from a very different type of. But you do have a technical background in the field. I get that. But for me, in my work, I see a lot of the time the root cause of the surface level symptoms that people are struggling with in their business is because their mentality, their identity is rooted in being a technician, not a world champion athlete or business person. That's the gap.
Yeah, I think, and it's taken me years. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think I've been practicing what I do now for a good 6-7 years, maybe from 2015 onwards. It took me a lot of years to learn not to micromanage my team, even when there were only 2 or 3 of us in business, not to do everything or try and do everything, to actually delegation and motivation is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Actually, rather than having to be the loudest man in the room, chairman skills. are much, much more productive in order. And when I say chairman's skills, I'm not talking about sitting at the end of a table and sitting there with the old pen and smoking my pipe type thing. I'm talking about being able to talk to your team and draw their best knowledge out of them, their ideas. Because I am one person, and if I'm sitting with my marketing team, which can vary in size from anything from 4 or 5 up to 10, it's like my ideas, guys. Now this is where I think we should go. What's everyone's thoughts? What do you recommend? You are surround yourself with people who are better than you in their area of expertise.
Right. What a great message.
People.
Yeah, what a great. We're back to people, right? A million percent.
Absolutely.
Interesting stuff. Really good. So we understand James's perspective on financial wealth. We understand James's perspective on time wealth. Two massive drivers there. I want to be financially free. I want to have the time to do what I want when I want with my money. That's beautiful. So tell us about health now, because obviously health's not important to you, really.
Health is everything. Without health, you have nothing.
Yeah. The other two don't matter, right?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I lost my dad when he was only 67, and he suffered for the last 10 years of his life with bad health. What he didn't die for in the end is not worth, with leukemia, sweets, limes. I mean, his body just attacked itself. Being fit is really, really important. One of the biggest killers of men over the age of 40 is stroke. And that comes from arterial stiffness. That's the clogging up of the arteries. You can manage that by a good, healthy diet, by certain supplementations, things like L-arginine, but it's you have to do some exercise. Now I'm not saying everyone should, run 50K a week and swim 10,000 meters a week, but there's some very simple things to do. I mean, here's a fact: 34% of the population of Great Britain today will not have a single serving of fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
But the government is telling us we need 5.
Yeah.
Why are they saying 5 a day?
Just one.
Actually, they're only saying 5 because it's an achievable number. Germany say 8, Japan and Australia say 14 servings a day. What's their knowledge? Why are they saying this? Why is it so different? It's all down to the antioxidants into your body, mopping up the cellular damage, giving yourself the vitamins and the minerals that your body needs to function and be optimized and optimize your energy. I personally of the belief that about 85% of the population of the world is working at a lesser percentage than they're capable of because they're putting the wrong fuel in the body. And this is why it motivates me. You talked about green foods earlier, talking about collagen. People go, I'm amazed how many of my friends, even in the early 50s, say, "Oh, I don't know how you do it anymore. I struggle to walk to the end of the road because I've got, I got a joint pain or my hips hurt or blah blah blah." The answers are there. Collagen is the answer. Green food's the answer. Antioxidants are the answer. Vitamins, minerals, the answer. Exercise is the answer.
Exercise.
Healthy eating is the answer. Half your plate should be green at night. It's very easy. It tastes great. And people say to me, "Oh, one of your supplements, the complete greens, is green." Here's a fact: 90% of the world's money is green. It's the color of wealth. It's the color of health. Why would you not fuel your body with Formula One fuel? Why would you put rubbish in there? I'm not saying I don't enjoy some chocolate and sweets. I do. Everyone does. I also love wine. And I'll have the odd whiskey. Everything in moderation. Gone are the days when I go out with the boys and get absolutely totaled. But I love a good bottle of wine. But I'd rather spend a few more pennies on a nice bottle than have something that's gonna give me a bad head the next day.
Yeah.
So it's about balance. It's about perspective, and it's about understanding for the individual what is important for the individual.
Who's your number one competitor then in the health arena with On Group? Who do you find yourself going up against?
There's some much bigger boys than us, and the interesting thing about the world of nutrition is that it's very, very diverse. So if we look at Protocol, it's a collagen based brand. There are brands out there like Absolute Collagen. Maxine, she's done an amazing job, and we all credit to her. Even if I don't like the taste of her product, and I'm astounded how she's done what she's done. She's done a great job. as an entrepreneur. There's the colo out there. I mean, the collagen world is expanding. It's actually saturated totally in the UK. So we need to look at markets new where it's not so saturated. But that's the collagen industry. Interesting, in the sports collagen industry, there's a number of brands out there, and a lot of them have fallen by the wayside recently. My Perform brand is really now a market leader. And that brand specifically goes after our elite athletes, or where everyone from couch to 5K, park run, county, what have you. Triathlon is the fastest growing sport in the world currently. And it looks after those people who want to get better. And the interesting thing is the age groups of these people that are participation sport. I want to do a half Ironman, I want to do an Ironman, I want to do triathlon, or what have you. The fastest growing age groups are 35 to 55.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
They're starting, the people who have done 10 years or even 20 years in business, and now realize that actually there's more to life than just working your socks off in central London and making somebody else wealthy. Is that wealth life realization.
Right.
So my brands go there, but we look for niches in the marketplace.
What strikes me, James, thank you for letting me jump in there. What strikes me is that your market knowledge is significant, right? Which is what we would expect from the CEO of a business like the On Group. But of course, back to the guy that's watching this, or the lady that's watching this, that's dealing with 250Ks with a turnover and 3 people, and they're struggling. The lesson here is know your market, right? You've got to have the passion, but you've also got to have the discipline to study the market, know who your competitors are, know how to navigate. There's some great lessons here, James. I really appreciate you sharing what you've shared. I think we for me, I think to translate this discussion into simple words for people watching, I would say James is a man that has approached business through the lens of business professionalism because of his sporting background. Clearly, he's not approaching business ownership as a job.
That's correct.
It's much bigger than that, and that for me, that's why it's so brilliant to have half an hour, 40 minutes or so with special people like you, James. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm sure we could, in fact, I was looking a minute ago thinking, I'm not sure that we should stop this interview because it is potentially endless. There's so much more to talk about, which means we're obviously going to have to get you back at some point, if you don't mind, and talk again.
It would be my pleasure. I think lessons from life, from business and sport is a fascinating area. And there is, I would say to people, there is so much as company owners that you can learn from the world of sport. There's some amazing books out there that people can read and digest. And I think some of the greatest entrepreneurs in this world have had a background in sport, and they learn lessons of resilience and dedication and perseverance and determination. And from me, my sporting background is what has set me up to keep going, to overcome the challenges of business. And let's face facts, it's never plain sailing.
No, it's not. And I want to say sort of that the people that are succeeding in business that don't have a sporting background, what they do share with the likes of you, James, is that iceberg, the iceberg that they are, the character that they are, the identity, the value system, the belief systems that they've generated, the knowledge that they've accumulated. These things don't happen per chance. So if you're out there and you're running a small business and you're struggling, as Jim Rohn said, let's quote Jim, don't wish for a better life, work harder on yourself. And that's the bottom line, right? That's the point. So James, we'll stop there today. Thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. Wish you a great day and a great Christmas. Don't train too hard. Allow yourself a few pigs in blankets, and let's see you in 2025, shall we?
Thank you, Ellis. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope our conversation brings some gold nuggets to people watching it.
I'm sure it will. Thank you very much for joining in. Bye,
Pleasure.
James.